Okay, is the audio working all
Yeah,
right?
I hear you. It's like, oh my God, I actually hear you and I see you. What the hell?
Yeah, yeah. It's
And
good to
you're
see
on
you in
time.
person. Yeah,
You're in a
yeah.
rock band? What?
Yeah, yeah, no, it's we're seldom punctual, but I don't know. Punctuality is kind of my thing. Someone's got to be in that world, you know.
Well, when I look at everything that you're doing, holy crap. Holy crap. And by the way, I had to throw this out there. I got scooped by JJ at the Obelisk. Yeah, I saw he actually wrote up about you. I'm writing about what it's like what it must be like to do a label and a band. And I'm searching, and there's JJ, and like, well, he already wrote it, so.
It's yeah, I don't know. I'm probably a little bit crazy, and it's funny enough. I feel less busy with everything I'm doing right now than I was like in previous projects. Something about like the singular band hustle was just really that was kind of exhausting to me. And I know it's like right now it may seem like I'm busy, but it's like a lot of just kind of casual things, you know, and give me a chance to kind of work on some different projects. So it's cool, you know. It's a lot, but you know, it feels like it's kind of more relaxed all around. So I don't know. Come see me in a month or so and see how I feel.
You know, that's what I was gonna say. Let's see where you're at in 6 months. And especially, so there are so many places where we can start.
Sure. No, we got a lot in common.
I'm pretty sure that the first whiff I had that you were out here was your label.
Yeah, Firelight Records. Yeah, I just broke ground with that not too long ago, and it's hard to describe what my vision is within my overall ambition. I've been getting the question a lot lately about, are you going to sign other bands? And I just have to answer people honestly and say maybe. I know that's vague and kind of lame, but it's mainly a platform for like, you know, projects that I'm collaborating on right now. Like obviously the Magpie debut is going to be through there. And there's another sort of folk project I have called The Old Night that's going to have a release on it. And after that, you know, it's just a matter of just seeing where it goes from there. And I'd certainly be open to having other, you know, talented musicians and bands on there. But, you know, I'm just not there yet. I literally just started this like 2 weeks ago. So, well,
I'm sure if all of a sudden, you know, you get a text from Dorothea Cottrell and Windhand is looking for a new fresh start, I'm sure you'd snap that up in a hurry.
Absolutely. Yeah. She and I just played a gig together not too long ago. We've been friends for a few years now. My former band Demon I was pretty active with that band, of course. And, you know, they're from Richmond, Virginia, which is where I was from, and it's been a lot of time there, you know, and it's still, even though I've been removed from Richmond geographically for like about, you know, over 20 years now, there was always a joke about Richmond that you never can truly leave, you know, there were all these like kind of urban legends about once you live in Richmond, you're never actually able to like be apart from it, and spiritually so, I think that's my case.
I used to clinically supervise a methadone clinic just outside of Richmond.
Okay, yeah. What town?
And,
What town was that?
I think it's called South Point or something like that.
Oh, yeah, okay. Gotcha. Yeah. Towards Petersburg.
A typical place where you'd put a methadone clinic in an industrial park with very little parking. It was weird because it was in 2 buildings. So that's what I know about Richmond, and they were always working on that one bridge that goes through downtown.
Yeah, the Manchester Bridge.
And it finally got done, so...
Yeah.
So what brought you to North Carolina?
My wife, basically, but also...
That'll do it.
Yeah. Back in the late 90s, I was playing in a band based out of Richmond called the Drag Strip Syndicate that was kind of like an MC5 type band. We had 3 guitars and we're, you know, just high volume and, you know, very much into like the vintage rock vibe. And yeah, we had a little bit of a signal as much as bands could during those weird pseudo pre-internet times. And we met a really great band from Raleigh, North Carolina called the Cherry Valance, whose core members are in a group these days called the Birds of Avalon that I think a lot of people may know.
Yeah.
And yeah, they were just telling us about this new venue, King's, that they had opened up, which is still open here in Raleigh, and invited us down to play. And my wife was a bartender there at King's, and yeah, it was just this collective thing of like, you know, I met Robin, my wife, and met, you know, just the people here are so cool, and the music scene was just, you know, killing it. And I was like, yeah, you know, as like a born and raised guy from Virginia, I'd always had these visions when I was younger to like go out west like everyone does. You know, I want to go to Portland, I want to go to San Francisco, but I ended up coming to North Carolina instead. Just ended up finding everything I like here.
With the scene that we have developing here, you might have made the right choice.
Yeah, it's definitely, there's no getting around the fact that it's a great music scene, and, you know, just for all types of music, you know, not just like, you know, heavy rock or whatever. It's just, you know, a lot of people, when they think about North Carolina, they think about like Merge Records and the indie scene, and it just ebbed and flowed through so many different cool things throughout the year. So it's, you know, you just can't take the music here for granted in any way.
Yeah, and there's this little band from North Carolina. I don't know if too many people have heard of them. Begins with a C.
Yeah.
Corrosion of Conformity. That's it.
Yeah, that little band. Yeah, they're local legends, of course, and you know, Mike is a good friend of mine. He recorded the Magpie album.
Yeah, I know, and it's like, so the Magpie comes from literally out of nowhere to me because
Yeah,
you know I
it's-
focus a little bit on Europe and a little bit on I do North Carolina.
Yeah.
So in the review that I'm writing, and then I'll embed this video into it. I have some questions for you.
Absolutely, that's what I'm here for.
The Magpie.
Yes.
I mean, it's this dark, ominous looking bird. That's not what I think of when I think of magpies. They're kind of friendly and cheerful.
Yeah,
Where's that come from?
Well, the art was created by Kristen Walsby, who's Brian Walsby, the drummer's spouse, and we just kind of we knew she had the talent. Just Brian and Kristen just collectively together just are incredible artists with what they can create. And around the time when we recorded the record with Mike Dean, he gave us just like a little rough mix, and Kristen was like, well, can I just listen to that? And she did not let us see what she was working on. She took her time and spent a few months just kind of like listening to the album, and she wouldn't even let Brian, her husband, have a peek. And then, yeah, just the day that she unveiled the artwork for us, it was nothing like we were expecting. I was just like, ah! All of us were just kind of blown away by it. I think it kind of captures the vibe of the band pretty well. I wasn't really sure if she was going to play into the whole bird thing from the band name, but there's some kind of like watchful, ominous vibe from it. And yeah, the music's just heavy and kind of has a darker side, but we're also kind of silly guys, and the band, kind of has a bit of a piss-taking vibe from time to time with some of the songs. So I think there's like a little bit of the a band that's like not taking themselves too seriously in just the healthy way kind of vibe with the art too. So
I'm surprised to hear you say that.
Yeah,
because this album is so eclectic. So the Magpie. Why did you name it the Magpie?
Honestly, I don't have a good reason for that. It was just, Brian and I.
That's it. I got the scoop. You heard it here, folks. Hey,
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
there.
I know. It was like a classic situation of the first thing that came into your mind, and you just couldn't unthink it once it happened, And yeah, I think, Brian and I had started like talking about riffing together and just kind of like playing some music for a little while. We've been friends for so long, and developed a pretty solid friendship. And once the pandemic died, we were like, I thought I was not going to play music anymore after Demon Eye. I spent a lot of time and energy with that very special dear band to me, but I also really needed a life change. I really just had some health issues I needed to address, and I just needed to kind of reset things. And it's funny, I was just joking with someone about this morning. So like in 2019, I was like, yeah, I think I'm done with the band thing for a while. Then the pandemic happened, and like everything that you thought was going to be what you adhered to ended up not being the case. So like, yeah, Brian and I got together and started just kind of riffing, and we just really liked what we were doing. He's an old friend of the Melvins, and he's a Southern California hardcore guy, and
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
yeah, he was like a ground zero for that amazing hardcore scene there. Like Black Flag, Descendants, and just all those amazing bands then. And yeah, I think the Melvins were living in San Francisco at the time when he became friends with them, and maybe sooner. I can't remember his exact timeline, but yeah, he was on the road with them for many years, and just kind of really became close with them as people. And I think he wouldn't mind me saying Dale Crover, the drummer, was just a huge influence on him as a player. Mm-hmm. And he also, like, a blend of like Dale style and like the hardcore style just made him such a different drummer than anyone I played with. And
You're jumping ahead on me, but while we're on that, when I listened to that album, the recording of it is interesting. It doesn't sound like a typical stoner doom or metal recording.
Yeah,
the drums in particular, and my biggest gripe when I'm listening, when I'm evaluating, I'm using headphones. Cymbals tend to just smear. It doesn't matter if it's my $2,000 headphones with my $2,000 amp, or these things at $199 at drop.com. They smear. This recording, every cymbal, every hit of the stick on the cymbal is clear. I hear a natural decay, and there's something that he hits on the 2-beat. I don't know what cymbal that is.
I'll tell you his secret. It's an ice bell.
It is an amazing sound.
Dinging ice bell, yeah. And he knows how to do it like right in the, because we like to put a lot of really tight stops in the riffs.
Right.
Right in those little quick hits of space. That's what he's like, ding, just kind of comes out of nowhere. It's
this muted crash that just, and he tends to do it on the second beat. So one,
yeah.
And it sucks me in.
It's cool.
You made the decision to go 3-piece.
To go 3, sorry.
3-piece. There's just 3 of them, right?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Why'd you go for? Because there aren't a lot of leads on this album.
Yeah, I don't know. It just didn't really feel like that kind of band to me. It's like every other band I've been in. I'm kind of like a classic rock style guitar player, and every band I've been in has kind of had like a vintagey, easily identifiable trade. And I always liked soloing. I was a huge fan of Ace Frehley, the MC5 guitarists. Just all these kind of like fantastic 70s style shredders, but this just didn't feel like that kind of band to me when Brian and I first started writing songs. You know, it was just kind of more concentrated on the quirky time signatures and like the jagged stops and, you know, that kind of thing. And it just, I don't know, maybe one, you know, but we also don't limit ourselves. You know, there could be something coming up that's got me kind of getting all flashy again.
Like a lot of music I fall in love with. The first listener to was a little hard because I could not, like, what kind of band is this? Are you hardcore? Are you 70s amplifier worship?
Right.
And then obviously my favorite song, Sleepy Eye, I cannot get that song out of my head.
Yeah.
Well, I'm doomed, you know. And so you have this frenetic energy that goes from here to there to here. There are times, this is a compliment, so hang in. There are times where I feel like, oh, this is the same old thing. Like, reviewer, I'm ready to pounce. And then you guys go, you do a chord progression or a tempo change, and I go, mother scratcher. It just, it's compelling.
It's a work in progress too. You know, it's like we don't really set ourselves. It's not like we sit down and write this stuff and go, okay, we want to make sure we don't sound like a stoner rock band. We want to make sure that like everything is, you know, we can't have everything all 4/4. We're not doing that. You know, we're just kind of like seeing what comes naturally. And I think that's how you end up with like these really silly jumps. You know, like the kind of hardcore song that Mike DeLoach, our bassist, sings. Derailed, you know, that's
right. It's like all of a sudden I'm hearing Mondo Generator. But it works. I'll be honest, it works better than when Nicola Verri did it with Queens of the Stone Age. It works. It's not so jarring, but it's like, wait, this is kind of a Black Flag kind of.
That's exactly what Mike Dean said when we were recording that song. Like Brian does the little cymbal thing at the beginning that's just straight up Bill Stevenson, one of his biggest influences, and you know, it just originally I was singing that song, and I'm not a hardcore singer, you know, and Mike is, and I was like, dude, he actually wrote that song, and I was like, this is your tune, and you know, it's kind of your vibe. You should just go ahead and sing this, you know. So we definitely got some weird mashups happening from time to time, but you know, classic situation where it makes sense to the three weirdos who were doing it. So
it works. I remember I'm trying to find things to criticize. The other thing is, well, it's kind of one note. It kind of has the same sound. And as soon as that thought goes through my head, you prove me wrong again. It's like you're one step ahead on everything. The hardest thing for me to get used to was the vocal style.
I definitely don't think like your standard doom metal guy or whatever, you know.
Where does that warble come from? It is fantastic.
That throughout the years, and you know, it's honestly, I think it was just from years ago. Like me and the guys in Demon Eye had a cover band called Corvette Summer that was like a 70s rock. You know, we kind of did like under the radar, non-radio hit 70s, and that was really kind of musically educational for me in terms of singing, and I became much more comfortable of a singer, kind of. But I think that little warble came from me just trying to find the right note as I was singing, like, just kind of like turned into like this weird vibrato, and just kind of, I can't not do it now. You know, just became my thing.
Oh, thank God. Because what I was worried about was that you digitally made that warble in there.
Oh, no. And a lot of folks have asked me that throughout the years, like, do you have a pedal on while you're singing? And I'm like, no, that's just my weird thing I do. A little bit Rocky Erickson, maybe. Folks kind of make that comparison from time to time. Like, I don't know. It's like, it just kind of started happening. I found a way to work with it, and just it's just what I do now.
I had no idea who you were. None. In fact, I'm learning right now.
Yeah.
So whenever, you know, I see, oh, it's a new band, it's a new release, oh, it's on their label, you have no idea what you're getting into.
Yeah, it's
And then I put the album on. I think you reached out to me. You sent me a code for the album.
Either me or Shy, maybe, who's helping us out with some contacts. Yeah.
Which, by the way, thank you. The fact that anybody knows who I am is like kind of weird.
Oh, I like what you do, you know, and I'm sure this is another thing we'll talk about, but the fact that you kind of wear your clean and sober tag on your with what you do, that's another thing you and I have in common. So. Oh,
very nice. Yeah, I mean, it is astounding to me how many people in this heavy scene. I'm not talking 50%, folks, but I'd say healthy 5 to 10%, which is a chunk.
Yeah.
You know, 5% of the election goes either way. We have different yahoos in office. It's amazing how many people there are and how creative it is. Yeah, everything's amazing. So you send me, somebody sends it to me. I remember I'm listening to it in bed. I have no idea what to expect. I mean, I get 100 a week.
Yeah.
And it was like the pacing of that album seems so evil and deliberate. So your opener, You Are a Parasite, right?
Yeah, the angry song.
So it almost comes across stock. It's not. I'm not insulting you at all. This is the brilliance of your album. Until your vocals kick in, and it's this weird combination of King Diamond with a little bit of helium, and then a classic Looney Tunes cartoon character. You know, it just sucked me in, and I found myself listening to the whole thing. When Sleepy Eye gets there, I'm like, oh my god, who's your inspiration? Where does all of this come from? You said you're like a classic 70s guitarist. Budgie?
Yeah. You know, it's probably I would say that this band, it really is kind of like drinking from some different ponds than like most, I don't know, stoner or doom bands. I was always just kind of like more into rock and roll and kind of like being in just kind of like, you know, vintagey style rock bands. And Brian and Mike's background is more kind of like punk rock and hardcore. But Brian also is just, all these guys just have eclectic taste. And Brian was also in the indie rock band Polvo at one point, and Erectus Monotone. And he's probably mainly known musically for, I don't know, I guess it just depends on what era you talk to him about. He was in a band called Double Negative in recent years, who was an excellent hardcore band. You know, they toured with like, you know, the guys in Off and Negative Approach, and, you know, all these kind of like legacy hardcore guys that are still doing it. And yes, I guess just our influences can kind of come from the Melvins, obviously. You know, Brian's Melvin stylings that he has just running through his veins, and that just kind of like tapping into like me kind of wanting to get outside of my comfort zone and doing some kind of twisted style riffing. Definitely a lot of punk rock. We love Australian punk. You know, like sometimes our practices will just get totally off course and us just stopping and talking about our favorite Saints records, or, you know.
Oh, geez. Really?
Yeah. Yeah, so that's always when you know you've got like a fun band, and like when you just spend more time just like talking with your buddies about like your favorite records. And yeah, you know, so I would say it's just a mix of like hardcore, vintage style heavy, like when I say vintage, you know, I'm not talking about 70s, I'm talking probably more 90s. You know, it's there was just like this really cool period of like underground, noisy, heavy 90s rock. You know, the Melvins obviously were forerunners for it. The Touch and Go record scene, Amphetamine Reptile, all that kind of stuff. And yeah, that definitely is, I think, more of the pond we're drinking from than like a 70s style thing. And
I think, didn't Amphetamine release the first Helmet album?
Yeah.
Strap It On.
Strap It On, yeah.
Okay. So, and there's definitely a little bit of Helmet influence with your chord choices are tasty and amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, you know, Helmet was a band I really liked a lot. They were a little too, I know this sounds ridiculous to criticize a band that we may have a similar thread to, but they were almost a little too clean sounding for me. You know, they had this polish to them that was great, and it kind of made them stand out. But I kind of liked the bands that were just really rugged, you know, really just kind of rough around the edges. Like the Unsane was a band I really liked a lot. And
oh, wow.
Yeah, I always thought they would have like a bigger signal than they ended up having. And yeah, you know, we just we like our riffs the way that they kind of like don't follow like any kind of set 4/4 pattern. We like to kind of just have these little quirky stops to them, and that definitely comes from 90s style stuff. You know, like living in Richmond, there was just so many amazing heavy bands at the time that were, I think, just kind of referred to as math rock at the time, but I just thought like they kind of went beyond that. Breadwinner, for example, Penn Rollins is an individual from Richmond, Virginia that just still has, you know, mad amounts of respect for his just insane playing style that he basically invented himself. And
so are you writing an encyclopedia of obscure influential bands? You're just swinging them out.
Yeah, we just had we had a lot of I don't know, all of us just really loved a lot of stuff that was happening at the underground level. The Pacific Northwestern stuff like Carp, Big Business. Yeah, Brian is, you know, goes back with those guys as well. And yeah, I think we got a little bit of just things that we just all kind of like love about, you know, whether it's that heavy stuff I was just talking about, or like, you know, psychedelic type stuff. We did a 13th Floor Elevators cover for a long time because it just seemed so perfect with my weirdo singing, and you know, kind of what we're going for. So we try to blend like the quirky rhythms, the heavy riffs, but also like a bit of psychedelia and just kind of hooky, catchy rock and roll. You know, I'd say like that's sort of the elements that we like to go for.
Do you do your own booking?
Yes. Yeah.
Do you have your own booking agency as well?
I do not, and I never will. It's booking for yourself is a nightmare. I can't even imagine doing
it. So, you know, again, new band. Obviously, I know the history. You're opening for 1,000 Mods, aren't you?
We are. Yeah, coming up in a few weeks, actually. Yeah, we've been able to play with some good bands during our short existence. We played with I Hate God and Freedom Hawk and Conan. You know, just this year alone, and it's, you know, a little bit of that comes from just having a little bit of history in the area. Like a lot of times when a local band comes around here, like I may know their booking agent, and he may know, like, you know, some previous things I've done, or like the venues around here may, you know, of course, remember stuff that I do. It's I'm very touched because, you know, that means that people just associate with you with something they know is going to be good, you know, and I just try to do what I can to not screw up that that association I may have.
Mission accomplished. Okay. What band have you ever heard that is heavier than Conan?
Oh, man, that's hard to say.
You know, I was at Desert Fest 2 weeks ago, and Conan could have ended the show for the whole thing.
Yeah.
I swear to God, we had Mantar before Conan, and Mantar is bringing some primitive man, like telekinetic Yeti vibes.
Yeah.
Conan, I love Conan. I've been listening to Conan for years. I had no effing idea how heavy those guys are live.
They are. It's so heavy and just so good. You know, it's there's a lot. I mean, I'm sure you've probably seen it just from like being a fan of like this general type of music. There's a lot of bands out there who really just they get the gear, they get the volume, they get the fuzz and like the low tuning, but it's heaviness really comes from more of like how you write and how you craft the music. And Conan, you know, John from Conan is just an amazing musician. You know, he's just got an amazing imagination for how he puts it all together and just makes it such an intense experience when you not only when you're at their shows, but the records are fantastic as well.
And Legend has it, one of the nicest people you could ever say hi to.
He is a sweetheart, yeah. And it's funny because I think I played with him in 3 different bands that I've been in. Yeah. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there just probably were like, oh, God, that's just Eric's latest thing.
One of the coolest things about being at Desert Fest is looking to my left while Color Haze is playing. Yeah. And there's the members of Castle Rat. Dorothea Cottrell goes walking by. Saw Color Haze at the St. Have you ever played the St. Vitus?
Didn't play there. There was a place kind of near there called the Acheron. That was sort of like their little sister venue. And yeah, played there. I'll
be writing up my thoughts on St. Vitus. It's smaller than the Poorhouse.
Yeah.
I mean, Local 506 is like a stadium compared to St. Vitus. But to get the gear off and on the stage, the bands had to walk through the audience.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Steven from Color Haze stepped on my toe. I'm never going to wash it. It was when Lopan got off the stage, Scott Thompson, the bass player, was fucking pissed. Because we're all saying that he's literally walking through a beer-soaked, you know, sweaty. By the way, Lopan live. Oh my God! Yeah,
they're such a good band, great guys.
They are. Yeah, but when you're in a place that fits 120 people,
I don't think I knew it was that small. That's really interesting.
It's small. You don't have to play 115 dBs, like 30 feet back from the stage.
Yeah.
The sound engineer had a little gauge, and I'm watching 115 dB, and I'm like, when's the jet taking off?
Did you by any chance see? Are you in North Carolina?
Yeah, I'm in Raleigh. I'm in
here.
Apex.
Okay, wow. I don't think I knew that. Yeah. Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
For some reason, I thought you were out of state. Yeah, I'm surprised you and I have not met in person yet. Yeah.
I don't get out that much. I'm old. I'm decrepit. My back hurts. No, after going to Desert Fest, no excuses. I have seen a lot of local bands like Doomsday Prophet.
Yeah, I know Brian, but I've not had an opportunity to see them yet either. I feel bad. It seems like I've always just got something stupid going on when they play.
You tour made them and Lurch.
Oh yeah, Lurch is from Wilmington, I believe.
Oh, I thought they were from here.
Yeah, I don't know. I could be confusing them. I think they might be from down at the coast. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I was asking you if you were local because I was at that show the other night at the Cat's Cradle where the Melvins and Boris played. And,
yeah, I had to pass.
Yeah, that was such a fantastic show. But what you're talking about was just that punishing volume that bands can have sometimes. Boris was. I mean, I love Boris, and I know this may sound like a slap against them. And not
okay.
They were just too damn loud. They were too loud, and like they were so low indie that like it was just hard to even like grasp what you were hearing. It's everybody, I know, and particularly with heavy bands like this, everybody thinks it's about the volume and like just getting that thick low end. But I think sometimes you got to take a little bit of nuance in it. And of course I'm the schmuck who's criticizing a legendary band like Boris right now. But
but you're not the only one. I mean, it's a poorly kept secret. I think the only band I've ever heard louder than Boris was Torch.
Oh yeah, I've seen them a few times.
I saw them along. If you've heard of Dredge, I'll be really impressed.
I don't know Dredge, no.
Okay, good. Thank God. I actually have one on you. Kind of an art rock progressive band from the 90s. They're from I think the Santa Cruz area, San Jose. Okay. So I got to see Dredge with like 2,000 other people, and to hear them, 2,000 kids singing Dredge songs was awesome. Anyway, Torch opens up, and everybody rushes the stage, when they come out on, and then they hit their opening chord. And I've never seen 500 people take 3 steps back in unison. Nobody was in front of that stage. And I have good earplugs, man.
Yeah, totally. It's sometimes bands just can kind of. I mean, I've seen Boris quite a few times throughout the years, and they've always been amazing and put on a great performance.
Oh, yeah.
I saw them I think the last time I saw them before the other night was at Psycho Vegas in 2016, and their volume worked there. It was at the Hard Rock in Vegas.
Yeah.
Like their sound just kind of like soared throughout that huge, hall. But yeah, something about the other night, I was just like, oh god, it's I don't know, it's just hard to distinguish it. But fantastic show anyway, and it was it's always so exciting to see a band like that who just has those dynamics worked out with one another, seeing them like right in front of your face, just kind of weaving off one another. It was great. Yeah.
Okay, so you're playing with 1,000 mods, which again is mind blowing. What's next for the Magpie?
Well, there's a few other shows that are happening towards the end of the year. One that's like still kind of like in the works, but it's a band that I'm excited about who is basically reuniting, and it will be their first show they played since 2018. And I should probably keep that a little hush for now. I think they want to be the ones to kind of make that announcement. But
feel free to send me a text.
Yeah.
Feel free to give me a scoop on that.
There's still a little bit of details to be worked out with that. But yeah, other than that, I think throughout December, we might have another show like locally. Another one of those situations where I'm still working it out with the booking agents. But we are going to go... we're going to do like a little kind of extended weekend with Crystal Spiders, our friends, and Crystal Spiders. And we're going to go up through Richmond and Baltimore and just kind of see some Maryland friends. And, of course, my old town of Richmond. And yeah, the Magpie record will be coming out in December. I'll actually have the physical copies.
Yes, so will I.
Yeah. So I'll be doing a lot of mailing out in December. So to yourself and to all the other kind individuals who did pre-orders, and very humbled and grateful for the orders that have come in. Particularly since we're a band that's like you said, we're new. Not a lot of people really know this project, and it's just an upstart label. So it's kind of awesome that we've gotten the love that we've gotten so far.
So I tried to do a little bit of research, and I'm trying to look at things. I go to your Bandcamp page. I'm expecting one or two, because a lot of new bands, it's me, my little symbol, and a couple other people. No, I couldn't count all the people. It seems to have taken off really amazingly well. Yeah,
I've got nothing but gratitude for that. Particularly, I've not been active with music in the band scene for quite some time at this point, since pre-pandemic, and since I had to make that tough decision, with Demon Eye, and just kind of step out of music for a little while to kind of focus on other things, but. You sort of lose your place in line if you do that. It's people just have short attention spans these days. Other new bands will come and go, so, Brian and I were just kind of joking about how we're aging guys, out there doing this. And we're just flattered if anyone cares, if anyone cares, So the fact that we're getting this kind of response is very meaningful and awesome.
It reminds me a little bit. There's I did an interview with Patrick from the band Volume that they're re-releasing their fairly obscure 1990 album.
Okay.
And the response to that, it's one of my highest viewed videos. Okay. It's so whatever you're doing is generating, I think you're doing about everything right. So you're on social media, but you're not on too much.
It's a fine line, yeah.
You participate, you actually talk to people.
Yeah.
The album, the artwork itself it really is spectacular. Nothing about this looks like it's local DIY. Nothing about your project comes across, like Black Flag with the gosh darn electric tape, and they put their posters up.
Something cool about that stuff as well. I always liked Ian McKay's stories about how when Minor Threat was first putting out 7 inches, they got copy and paper from one of their mothers and examined the 7-inch sleeves to see how they could fold it the same way. And I kind of like that sort of vibe too. But
don't you wish you could go back in time and actually see all those bands? Maybe move to DC and see where Bad Brains and all them are out.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's especially for I'm at kind of that weird age of being a Gen Xer who was a little too young for punk rock, but my age group got to see some pretty cool stuff, being a teenager in the early 90s, when all that excellent music was happening. But I just missed the punk wave, that was sort of my older, the older brothers of my age group's kind of time.
So I do have a short story. Okay. So I'm about 10, 15 years older than you. I saw Black Flag at a small club in Cleveland.
Oh, very cool. Yeah.
And
it wasn't cool.
I wasn't cool. So I drank this bottle of wine. I have this weird mullet, I shaved down the top of my head and kept the hair long, so I have a really bad David Bowie mullet. Okay. And I wore an ultra suede jacket with a shirt, so I look like some mutant Huey Lewis nightmare dude. So I go there, I'm smashed, and so the memory, if you can trust it, but I'm pretty sure this happened. The audience is sitting down for the whole thing.
Really?
And I'm pogo dancing like it's Devo or Oingo Boingo. Next thing I know, these people grab me. They grab my feet, they grab my shoulders, and they throw me into Chuck Biscuit's drum set. And so Henry Rollins is just, I think he spit on me. That was just obnoxious. That drum set didn't budge.
Wow.
They have these mason bricks and these weights all around the drum set. And so that's my punk. That was the one and only time that I stayed away from mosh pits.
You would have a really good time talking to Brian. You know, he was, like I said, that was his world, you know, seeing bands like Black Flag and, you know, just kind of being in that sort of environment. And he's good. And Mike Dean, for that matter, you know, those guys just are always so great to hear similar stories, you know.
I think Mike Dean is, and I've noticed this more and more since I started this channel and my blog, they're like the unheralded fourth or fifth member in any band. Mike Dean's recording on your record, it's raw. It sounds, you know, how much of that was live with you guys in the room? Any of it?
All of it. That was just all of us playing live. And I think I did like an additional guitar overdub.
Did the drummer at least have a plexiglass screen of any kind? No?
Brian is, he's just a very natural player. I don't even really think we did multiple takes of those recordings, what I remember. You know, it was all just really fast, and Brian just kind of nailed everything he wanted to do, like on those songs. And, you know, Mike's studio is kind of set up like a big room, you know, and isolation booths for the amplifiers. So,
okay.
Yeah, Mike DeLoach and I were just kind of in the room. It's kind of interesting because, like, you know, we're in the room without our amplifiers, you know, watching Brian, and he's just kind of like watching our hands just so he's got a reference to the riffing. And, but the amps were kind of just, you know, closed off in like nearby isolation booths. So it was a fun way to record live, you know, and we just got a little bit of a tightness to us that worked well for it.
And you've known Mike Dean for a few years?
Yeah, I met him, I can't remember when I first met him. I think it was at least 10, 11 years ago. Just about town, you know. My wife and I used to live in a neighborhood that was really close to where he and his wife, Sue, live. And I'd see him riding his bike around from time to time. And actually met his wife, Sue, before I met him. She's an awesome person. She was like a local journalist for a little while. And yeah, we just became friends. And then Deem and I started getting really amazing opportunities and got to open for COC a few times, both like with that little Animosity lineup that had revamped for a little while, and then like a few times when Pepper joined them too. So yeah, we just became friends. You know, he's just an amazing human being, got a good heart. He's funny as hell, you know. And Brian Walsby is another funny guy, like from that same kind of generation and mindset as Mike. So, you know, just knowing both those guys and hearing them kind of sharing stories of the old days is always a joy for me. Well,
and now you're a part of it. So now you, the Magpie, your record label, are part of the Raleigh story. I think, you know, I know that you're definitely in my top 10 for the month. I would expect a fairly, I'll be surprised if it doesn't show up on Doom charts, although it's hard to say.
Yeah,
it really is. But
there was a woman in Germany who I think is a Doom charts contributor who I think,
Mel.
Mel. I
Mel
think
Lee.
she shared some really nice words about us. And
yes, she did.
I can't remember if that was a Doom charts thing or not, but it was.
Yes, it is. So she does Sunday morning music.
Yeah,
so she releases
that's right.
playlists.
Yeah.
Nice. She's great. So I never thought I'd be hanging with these folks, and she was the first one to reach out and like give me a hug virtually and welcomed me in. So
yeah, it's a very loving scene, the heavy music scene. You know, I always really love that about it. You know, I remember telling a lot of people, like in the early 2000s, like with the rock bands I was back then, that was a very competitive scene, and I don't really feel like it's like that with the heavy scene. You know, it's just more folks just truly celebrate one another's music and have each other's back. You know, it's cool.
Oh yeah. Even the bigger bands, when I saw Elder at the Poorhouse, which again, you know, Poorhouse and Elders playing there. No, all the bands, Dreadnought and Ruby the Hatchet, were all like out in the audience or on stage watching each other.
Yeah.
It was especially Dreadnought when I was watching them when Elder was playing, and they were just in love. That's the whole scene in general. Yeah. Okay, my friend, this has been like I learned a hell of a lot.
Right on. I appreciate you talking.
A heck of a lot of fun.
Yeah, like I said, from one sober guy to the next, you know, I really think it's cool what you're doing. I really love that you named your channel, your site, your media presence. I think it's cool that you named it what you did, and I really appreciate people that are putting that out there about themselves. You know, I was always really kind of forthcoming about my sobriety, and had a lot of people throughout the years, you know, other musicians kind of contact me about it, and I think it's gotten to be very destigmatized in a way that it. Compared to how it was years back from folks like you who are putting that out there. So I appreciate you doing that.
I mean, listen to me, I'm about to go, oh, shucks. Thank you. We never thought that the website would amount to a hill of beans.
Yeah.
And now we have 2 writers. We get to go all these festivals. I get to have the YouTube talk to, really, you're kind of a legend with Deem and I alone, right? Well, come on. You know how we are with legends. It's like Black Sabbath, right? Kids, let me tell you something about Black Sabbath. Nobody listened to them in 1972.
Yeah, it took a little bit of time to get some traction. Yeah.
If you went to high school, nobody had a Black Sabbath shirt on. They were listening to Casey and the Sunshine Band, the Eagles, and the Allman Brothers. That's pretty much it. Then the Cars when they came out. But yeah, then in the 90s, everybody grew up with Black Sabbath.
Yeah.
You're the same way, man.
We'll see. We'll see.
Is there anything I didn't get to tonight that you really wanted to talk about?
No. I just appreciate you just having me on. It's always excellent to have a chance to talk about what you do with someone who is into it, and I appreciate your support and everyone who does this. It's been cool, man. Thank you.
In close for me, I get a lot of free music. It's I get 100. As soon as I listened to your album, I ordered the vinyl. I don't have a record player.
I really appreciate you doing that.
I'm just like, oh my God, have you sold out yet?
No. We still got that. Thankfully, no, because the hopes was to have some available in our hands for selling at shows, and I was trying to make sure that we had some to kind of carry over for that as well. I as cool as it is, as humbling as it is to kind of sell all of them in pre-orders, I wanted to make sure I didn't do that. I wanted to make sure I could actually put these into people's hands who are coming out to see the band perform.
Okay. Yeah. Now I know. My last question for you was, are you insane? And the answer is yes.
I am completely insane.
And I've got to tell people, you had to front that money for the vinyl up front.
I did have some assistance there, but yeah.
Okay. Still, you have to pay for the vinyl before they make the vinyl.
If anyone else out there is insane and wants to do the same, do your research is my advice for people, because there are some really awesome folks out there who kind of work on a grassroots level, and they will be your friends. They've got your back, and you'll have theirs as well, in a business sense. And it can be done. It's easier and it's less expensive than you may be thinking. So yeah, I'm really good at finding ways to not break my bank too much. So
good, but still, regardless, that ballsy move, dude. I'll just say it. Ballsy.
Yeah, thanks, man. You just get to where you're just crazy enough to do it at some point in your life.
One thing that we like to do is listen to something that hasn't been released yet. I do a live reaction with the band.
Okay.
On your next release or the EP or anything that you'd be willing to come back on, I will not have listened. I'll listen to it for the first time with you on YouTube.
Okay, yeah, I would be happy to do that. That sounds cool.
Okay, I will count on that happening. Eric, this has been amazing.
Thank you very much. And I think I called you Chris in an email. I apologize for that, Scott.
You know what's funny about that? And I might edit this out. When I was growing up, this is how old I am. There was a baseball player for the Cincinnati Reds named Chris Spear.
Okay.
And everybody pronounce it's S-P-I-E, so they call me Spears. I have been called Chris since I was 6 years old.
Oh, wow.
So when you said that to me, it's like, hey, Chris, I didn't even think twice about it. I'm just so used to being called Chris. Of course, now with the beard, I look like Kringle, so.
Yeah, it's I don't know, man. I think some people just have a look that's attached to a certain name, A lot of people think I look like a Kevin. I get called Kevin a lot randomly, and a good friend of mine that was in a band with him, his name was Kevin, but yeah, maybe you just look like a Chris to people. It's you can say.
Dude, this has been amazing. Thank you so much for the time.
Yeah.